everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're talking about this knife right here. Well, actually we're talking about 3 different versions of it. Today's video is all about blade shapes. This knife here, this is an Ozark Trail something or another. I did a video on this a while back. This knife came in 3 different blade shapes. A drop point, a clip point, and a sheep's foot. Now, in my mind, these are the 3 kind of classic EDC blade shapes. There's other popular ones, such as Tonto or Wharncliffe, but I think these, the sheep's foot can kind of fall in the Wharncliffe category. But I do think that these 3 blade shapes are, by and large, the most common blades that you'll find on modern EDC knives. And I've decided that today we're going to test them head to head and see what they each excel at. For a video of this type, getting 3 knives that are identical other than the blade shapes was absolutely necessary, and that's kind of hard to do. So this cheap knife is what we've got. The geometries on these blades are not completely optimized, but they are all similar in geometry. They were all similar sharpness out of the box. I've sharpened them up a little bit. They're all pretty much equally sharp now, and this is about as good as we're going to get for a completely fair testing of different blade shapes. Having the identical handles is very, very important because handle shape adds a lot to cutting performance. So the fact that these are all equalized in that regard is going to be really, really helpful. I originally planned to do this video many months ago, back in December. And as part of this video, I want to go out and shoot a couple rabbits and skin them and compare the skinning capabilities of these different blade shapes. However, I didn't get around to that. And if anyone who's ever hunted rabbits knows, it's much easier to skin them just by ripping the skin off. But, I want to demonstrate that. I'm not going to do that right now because it's August, and the old adage is don't eat a rabbit unless the month has an R in it, right? Because during the warmer months, they've got all kinds of diseases and parasites and things. So I am not going to do that in this video. However, I have skinned enough animals with enough blade shapes that I can tell you right now, clip points work great, drop points work great, Sheepsfoot Wharncliffe knives do not work great. And that's because when you're trying to get into these cuts where you're separating the skin from the muscle, you're kind of doing swooping cuts, right? You're going in there and kind of swooping. That's kind of the best way I can describe it. And you want your tip to kind of go up a little bit. You want a little bit of belly. You want your tip kind of up here. And so if you have your tip pointed down like on a Wharncliffe or a Sheepsfoot, you're just going to end up kind of stabbing into and maybe through your hide, which is not something you want, especially if you're going to be using that hide for anything. So yeah, clip points definitely work very, very well, especially since you do have a nice acute tip. So if you need to get in around some tendons or things, you can use their knife for that, as well as, more than just skinning. Drop points are also very, very good. Again, you got a lot of belly. That tip's in a very manageable place. So clip point and drop point definitely rank much higher than Sheepsfoot or Wharncliffe in hunting applications. Alrighty, next up, we're going to do a little bit of woodwork. Let's see how this goes. Alrighty, that's enough of that. So, what did I think? Well, I did a couple of things. First thing I did was just making some shavings, and in that task, I found that the clip point and the drop point did best. The more straight edge on the Sheepsfoot didn't do quite as well. It wasn't bad though. It really wasn't bad. Just didn't do quite as well. Next thing I did was drilling, and this is the clip point hole. This is the Sheepsfoot hole, and this is the drop point hole. Overall, I think the drop point drilled the best hole. The Sheepsfoot was second. The Sheepsfoot actually drilled a really, really nice hole. I think having that tip more in line with the pivot, or I guess a little bit lower, helps you to align it a little bit more and get some of that drilling done. The clip point did not do very good at all. Next thing I did was just some very simple whittling. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. In that task, I found that the clip point and drop point were both very controllable, very easy to use, both in kind of forward, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of digging forward, or if I was digging backwards, very, very controllable. The Sheepsfoot worked better if I was going forwards. I had a little bit of trouble with it coming back. However, I also did a couple of, just like little back strokes here on the flat, and it did a little bit better on that. Overall, the drop point, I think, is the better woodworking shape overall. Again, the Sheepsfoot did not do too bad, especially in the drilling. And a lot of carving knives you'll see are Wharncliffes. However, they tend to be smaller blades. If you're going to have a larger blade that's a Sheepsfoot or Wharncliffe, maybe not the best for woodwork. Again, not terrible, but not the best. The clip point did very well in everything except the drilling. And I'm sure, again, variation could fix that, but this more buoy shape just wasn't the best at that. How about food prep? Unfortunately, I only have 2 oranges, and they're pretty different in size. So maybe this won't be all that precise, but we'll make it work. Well, they're all about as sharp as a spoon now. I did the woodworking test before this. We're going to have to go and put some new edges on these. But from that little bit of testing, they weren't bad. The clip point was definitely the best, followed by the drop point, and then the Sheepsfoot, but it wasn't bad at all. It did just fine. you know what? You missed your chance for oranges. You said you didn't like oranges. You knock it off. Kick your head into outer space, little shit. One thing about these steels is they sharpen up really, really easily. There's one more down. Last one. Pretty clean cut. Let's go back and do more testing. And now a staple for any EDC knife, breaking down cardboard. We all do it. You might be doing it for your recycling. Might be doing it just for the trash. Whatever it is, you've probably got cardboard that you're cutting. So, let's go ahead and cut some dang cardboard. This might not be the best position for this. All right. quickly. Alrighty, so despite the frustrating lack of wear resistance on these edges, what did we learn? Well, the knife that was the worst at that, I think, was the clip point. It came out of the cuts a lot easier. However, for some reason, the little bit of belly it had there allowed me to like kind of start a cut, like pushing down a little bit easier, but it definitely was the worst. The drop point was pretty good. It did all right. My gosh, what a disgusting edge. Anyways, it did all right, and, you know, it was fine. The best, however, was the Sheepsfoot. It did stay in the cuts a lot easier, and, yeah, overall, it was just better. How about some utility cuts? Let's do it. I think that went exactly as we were expecting it to go. Not great, okay, definitely the best. Does this look familiar? It's review cutting time. No, not really. In terms of that pull through, the belly on the clip point kind of caused it to slip out. Not that real great. They probably would have done the same thing on the drop point, but I made sure to stay in the flats. And then the Sheepsfoot did really, really well, keeping the, the straight edge stayed in the loops pretty well. All right, now, cutting board test. All right, so in this case, the Sheepsfoot had a major disadvantage with that mostly straight edge. It was not able to be pushed down onto the cutting board very well. These two knives did a lot better because they had belly. They were able to be, pressed down on. That was a weird sound effect for that. Oh well. Alrighty guys, so what did we learn? Well, we learned that this steel doesn't hold an edge worth a darn. I kind of expected that. Like, I knew that the steel was trash, but I gotta say, it did make the testing very hard, and I'm done. There's a couple other things I wanted to do, like doing some blister packs, or, just a couple of other odds and ends, but I think the stuff that we did do gives us a pretty good overall idea of what these knives are capable of. Also, I gotta say, all of these... What do you want? There's a goat here. Anyways, during the testing, man, the pivots on these things have really come loose. Anyways, what have we learned? Well, I would say for EDC, like just, you know, regular EDC, the buoy's not what you want. I think a lot of people kind of realize this. I love clip points. I think they are beautiful, beautiful. You knock my camera over. I swear. Thank you. You just stay there. I think they're beautiful blades. I think they're very appealing visually. Utility-wise, they definitely have their place. I love clip points when I'm outdoors because, again, you know, hunting tasks or, you know, they are good for woodworking. I do prefer a straight clip point, which we did not test in this video. That is one of my favorite blade shapes of all time. But, yeah, this Bowie knife, again, it has its niche, but for EDC, probably not what you're going to be looking for. Drop point in the Sheepsfoot. And I will say with this Sheepsfoot, we do have a little bit of belly. That is my preferred way to have a Sheepsfoot, is with a little bit of belly rather than the completely straight edge. I think that does give it a little bit more versatility. I am not a huge fan of completely straight edges at all. That's not my go-to. But between these two, when it comes to just EDC use, Sheepsfoot is probably better, just day-to-day type of stuff. However, if you're going to be doing anything that involves wood or food or hunting style tasks, outdoor stuff, things like that, the drop point is what you're going to want. Now, again, I think a lot of this is probably stuff that you guys would have already inferred, but for those of you who are maybe new or just enjoy seeing stuff like this, hopefully you learned something and hopefully this was entertaining. Were these tests scientific? No, not really at all. But again, I do think they're good to illustrate some of the differences between these blade shapes. And that's what we're looking for when we do videos like this, right? Or at least that's what I look for. I'm not trying to be out here doing experiments, taking down absolute data points that I can put into a spreadsheet or write a paper about, right? I do plenty of that already with sciencey stuff. But I just want to show you guys what these different blade shapes do in some tasks that you might encounter day to day. Because you can read, I mean, why would you read a paper on EDC blade shapes, right? Maybe an article or a blog post, but you wouldn't read a paper about it. What you would do, however, is watch a video of some dum-dum just out there cutting some random stuff, and then you can draw your own conclusions. So, there's what we have, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.